I've prepared a quick speech to keep to my 3 minutes. I have a tendency to ramble. My name's Rowan Thorne. Full disclosure, I'm a Labour Party member, Vice Chair of the Labour Party here, and more importantly, a local resident in Taunton. I'm just bringing to the attention of the Town Council tonight one small issue that we've encountered locally during local campaigning and speaking to local residents. As you can see, we've been addressing an issue locally. And I'll keep to my 3 minutes promptly with my prompt sheet. It is widely acknowledged that there are certain hotspots for antisocial behaviour throughout the county and within Taunton itself. Whilst the root causes of antisocial behaviour and low-level crime are beyond the jurisdiction of the Town Council, we are asking that the current mechanisms that are in place by the Town Council, such as street marshals, be adopted to address antisocial behaviour and low-level crime in other parts of the town outside the town centre itself. We are requesting that the council consider expanding the geographic scope of the 2 newly procured street marshals funded by the Town Council. Local residents feel that these should be patrolling beyond the immediate geography of the town centre of Taunton and in other antisocial hotspots within the council's boundary. As I'm sure most are aware, local residents and businesses in Pearland and Lingford and other parts of Taunton are extremely concerned about the rise in antisocial behaviour that has increased in the area recently. It is our shared belief that no resident should feel uncomfortable or unable to visit the local conveniences or feel intimidated or at risk during certain times of the day, and no resident should have their safety jeopardised because of the actions of a small minority. Our proposal is very popular and supported by residents and businesses, as you can see. So I urge the council as a whole, and particularly the 2 local councillors for the area, to fight for this on their residents' behalf. And us as a Labour Party group are willing and happy to work in conjunction with any other members of the Town Council or any other local residents, bring this issue to a light and find a resolution. Thank you.
Yeah. So another hand up there.
You ready? I'm Deane. I'm actually the chair of the local Labour group. So we've been out and about talking to local residents, and so I've been asking people, if you have any questions you'd like us to put to the Town Council, I'll take them down the hill. So my first question comes from Mrs. Fern from St Albans Place, and she's got a question about the children's play park, which some of you will be familiar with, which is the Taunton Green Park up on Hope Corner Lane where it meets Cheddon, and she just wants to know, when is it going to get fixed? Basically, I'm sure someone must have that in mind. Is there a maintenance schedule? And apropos of that, some of you may be aware there's already an accessible roundabout up there, which doesn't go round because it's got gummed up with sand. And last month, obviously, you were talking about maybe spending 20 grand on a new one of these accessible roundabouts in the park just down the road. And so I'd just really like to ask anyone, I'm sure it's on your list of things to fix, but it'd be a lot cheaper to get that fixed. And then you could maybe build the other bit of equipment that people really wanted down the road, and you'd still have the nice net gain of an extra accessible roundabout than you have at the moment. So that's that one. Then Mr. Deane Ridial wants to ask you all about the fly tipping that he feels is really bad by the garages on Selworthy Road. So I don't know who might be able to look into that for him, the garages that are just on the right as you go up into Selworthy Road. So that was his question. And very briefly, question from me, because I know you've recently had 400 really lovely trees planted, but I just wonder if you're aware that the ones on Galmington Field, I walked around it today, about 10 of them are either dead or dying. And I know that RSK Habitat were contracted to do a maintenance programme for 3 years. So I really hope someone could get onto them, because some of them really, really seriously look dead already. Not surprisingly with all this drought, but hopefully they can be prompted into doing a bit more watering or something. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. I call on Councillor Deacon to respond.
Thank you. Thank you both for your contributions this evening. You appreciate I didn't have early sight of them, so I'll give you the best response I can, but having followed any further details as needed. I'll start, Rowan, with your comments around the street marshals. So the street marshals have been really well received in the town. I'm really pleased with the work that they've been doing. We now have 2, so we've extended that following really positive responses from local businesses in particular, and the work that they've been doing on helping to increase the reporting of crimes around the town. They've been instrumental in helping us roll out the UK pack, so ensuring that more businesses are logging more information, that more people are making sure that police are aware of what's happening in the town. So they've been highly successful at achieving that. the combination of the town council showing our commitment both to the street marshals and the CCTV service in our town centre more generally has meant that working closely with our local MP, Deane Amos, we've been able to secure 9 extra police officers for the West Somerset and Taunton area, which I think is a huge achievement and a really big step forward. With regards to extending the routes of the marshals, I do think we need to be a bit careful about what the role of the marshals is versus the role of our local policing team. So I think we need to, there's a really fine line to be tread there, and the cost associated as well with extending the marshal remit. I think the risk is if they try to do too much, actually they become less effective. So I think we need to be quite targeted in how the street marshals are deployed, and I think keep up the pressure on national government to fund our police service effectively so that they can do what they should be doing in our local community. So share your concerns around antisocial behaviour. I know that Somerset Council are putting some more money into those measures as well, and look forward to keep working with you to make sure that all of our communities feel heard on that. In terms of the other 3 questions, the park at Taunton Green Park, so this is off the top of my head, so you have to bear with me. I believe there were 2 bits of equipment that were broken in Taunton Green Park. One was the swings, which I think have now been repaired and replaced, is my understanding. I think our team have repaired those. The second is the roundabout, as you rightly mentioned. I'm not technical, but I understand that the mechanism hadn't been maintained and actually for some time. So our team were trying to source the right equipment to be able to then replace that now that we've taken on that park. So we're aware of it. We're working as hard as we can to get that particular piece of equipment repaired as soon as we can. As you may know, we've been investing £1 million over 5 years in our parks in the town, which will really give them all a new lease of life, and that's what we're committed to doing. So we're on the road and currently out to tender on a contractor for that particular programme. For Deane's question on the garage and cellar, I know Deane, so I'm happy to pick that up with him and make sure that that's being collected, not a problem at all. And we all comment on the field, Garrington Field and the trees there. Yeah, we'll ask the team to check that, and the local member, I'm sure, has heard as well. I know that they are being maintained, but we'll just make sure that the contractor is on the case and that they're being well looked after. So
I've got photos if you need them.
yeah, please send me photos. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Councillor Deacon. Are there any other questions? Thank you very much. We'll now move to the meeting proper. First of all, apologies of absence. Apologies received from Councillor Consolli, Councillor Rob Isaacs, Councillor Paul Toos, and Councillor Gemma Evans. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations that councillors wish to make? Thank you very much. That brings me to item 3 of the agenda, the minutes. These are to approve and sign these as a correct record, the minutes of the previous council meeting held on the 10th of June 2025. Do I have a proposal, please? Sorry. My apologies.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to update the council on the status of the letter that was referenced in the previous minutes.
Thank you, Marcus.
We have chased for a response from Somerset Council leader on the unauthorised cameras and requests for transit sites. We haven't had a reply as yet, but we do have a meeting this coming Thursday with the police and Somerset Council, which is positive, to discuss how we can work together going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcus. I'll now move back to the approval of the minutes. I would like a proposal to approve and sign as a correct record the minutes of the previous council meeting held on the 10th of June 2025. Do I have a proposal, please? Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Stainthorpe, yeah. I would remember Judy's first name, but surnames are a bit of a challenge to me. I had my birthday this weekend and it seems to get harder and harder every year to remember names. I do humbly apologise. So do I have a proposal? Do I have a seconder? Very much, Councillor Packer Hughes. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? I declare that vote is carried. That takes me on to item 4, referral of the minutes. To note the minutes and actions arising from the committee shown below. The Personnel Committee minutes and Operations and Assets Committee meetings have already been agreed at the previous meeting. So that first of all is Planning, Development and Licensing Committee, which is held on the 22nd of May 2025. I will take these together unless any have any objections. And the Community in Place Committee meeting, which was held on the 24th of May 2025. Do I have a proposal, please? Thank you. Councillor Ellis, do I have a seconder? Councillor Garside, all those in favour? All those against? Are there any abstentions? I declare that vote is carried. Thank you. That brings me on to item 5 of the minutes. Receive any communications or announcements from the Mayor. Now, I'll keep this as brief as I can, and certainly within 3 minutes. This has been a very busy period with lots of very important and interesting things happening since the last meeting. First of all, there was the D-Day wreath blessing, which certainly needs to be recorded. I was at Bridgewater College for an excellent event, which was the conclusion of their year, and it was put on by their arts department. That was an amazing event. There was the Green Fair, which took place. I had a visit to a care home called Freddie House, which was really quite moving. I mean, it's the most well-run institution. I attended the 115th anniversary of the Millen Cancer Appeal. 15 years, it's quite something. There was the art exhibition at the Brew House, which was really, again, most impressive. Which brings me on to the last few days, the Somerset Armed Forces Day. What a day. 41,500 people attended that event. It's quite remarkable. I was sitting next to the Lord Lieutenant, who said he hadn't realised what a magnificent event it was in Taunton. It really was most impressive and a credit to the town. Yesterday, finally, I attended the Citizens Somerset Young Leaders celebratory event. And together with me were councillors Deane, O'Donnell, and Toos. And again, these young people, primary school age, who are actually speaking about issues they had in Taunton. Quite remarkable, and it's a really good thing that we're encouraging young people to do, to actually question our councillors as to what we're doing about certain things. And I have to congratulate Councillor Deane for the very hard work that you put in, and it really did show that we are liaising with the youngest of our citizens in this area. So it's really a great privilege to be there. That's all I want to say under this particular heading. Brings me on to item 6. Any communications or announcements from the leader of the council, Councillor Deane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 3 things from myself this evening. First of all, just on unauthorised encampments. So I appreciate and want to thank residents for their patience. I know we've had quite a number of authorised encampments this year. I just want to reassure residents that we are underway. We put an update out earlier this week on the progress with the measures, preventative measures that we agreed as council back along. So they are being deployed and installed at the moment. So more to be seen in local parks in the coming days and weeks. I also want to put on record thanks on behalf of councillors to officers who have been so responsive in those moments, particularly when it comes to late Sunday evening and late evenings, particularly to Marcus, our Deputy Clerk, for being so on hand with information. It's really important, and our residents really appreciate that. So thank you, Marcus, for the work that you've been doing and keeping everyone up to date on what's happening. Like the Mayor, just to re-emphasise 2 of the key events that I think are worth reflecting on. It was a real honour and a privilege to be part of the opening of Somerset Armed Forces Day on Saturday. It really was an amazing day, and I'm just so proud that it was this council. It was one of our very first things that we did was to support that event, and we were founded 2 years ago. And it's just so great to see it grow from strength to strength each year. So the committee have done another amazing job, a day to be proud of, and it was great to see so many people there enjoying that wonderful day. And Citizens Somerset, like Mr. Mayor, yesterday I attended students from St James Church School, Lingford Park Primary School. Gave me quite a grilling, actually. It's far tougher than any council meeting, I can assure you. They were on great form, and to have worked with them over the past 12-18 months has been a real inspiration, actually, to see young people so engaged and caring about our community. And I believe some might be attending the community in place meeting next week. So anyone who's there, watch out. They really are a force to be reckoned with, but they are wonderful. But that's it from me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Deane. This brings me on to reports from chairs of committees and working groups. Chair of each council committee or working group will provide an overview, maximum of 3 minutes of the business conducted since the previous council meeting. I'm now going to call on any members who wish to provide an update, and I'll take these in order. These are the following meetings that have taken place since we last met. First of all, Councillor Beth Fernandez, Community in Place Committee on the 24th of June.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of brief things. I just wanted to just touch on Tessa's point about the trees on Ganton playing field. I'm ward member for that area. I will be in touch with Craig tomorrow to find out what's going on with that and see if we can get them watered, see if we can get some sort of emergency watering done on those. So thank you for that. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. So the Community in Place Committee met on the 24th of June. Just a brief run through. We reviewed and approved the 3 ward member initiative schemes. The Linford Park Nature Hub, which Councillor Pollard submitted, the Pond at Wellsprings Primary School from Councillor Isaacs, and new bike racks in the churchyard of Taunton Minster from Councillor Toos. All of those were approved. And we also approved the event management safety plan for Taunton Together 25. And we are, as you've heard briefly, our 2nd Street Marshal Bentley Knight is now working alongside Nick Farber, which is great news. And Councillor Strauss and myself and Craig Stone and our street marshals are going to be accompanying the PCSOs tomorrow morning on a walkabout of different areas around the town centre as part of the Neighbourhood Policing Week of Action. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fernandez. Councillor Ed Firmin, Planning Development and Licensing Committee held on the 19th of June.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting to get the report, but yes, no, we held a meeting and we went through all the planning applications. I don't think we had any licensing, and yeah, nothing particular in particular to report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Firmin. Now the next one, Councillor Task and Finish Group, 12th of June. I don't have a name by this. Is there anybody here?
Civic. Is that the Civic?
The Civic
Yes, me.
is not what I said. Civic Task and Finish Group. Yes, Councillor Fernandez.
It'll be me again.
Yeah, you'd like to. Right.
Thank you. So just in brief, we went through and updated the civic protocols, in particular the roles and responsibilities of mayoral duties, both mayor and deputy mayor. We also discussed and agreed to start looking at the selection process for the mayor's cadet going forwards from next year. And we agreed to consolidate the civic handbook into a single protocol document with a supplementary information sheet for internal use. And we also reviewed the flag flying protocols as well. And also had a look at flags that we've actually got and the flags that we need to purchase. All of those recommendations are in reports that are coming to our next Community in Place committee for approval next Tuesday. And we also discussed plans for Civic Awards programme from March 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Fernandez. But before we finish with this item, I'd just like to mention Joe Comer, who's our civic lead. It's quite interesting because we are a parish council rather than a higher authority. And things which we've done in a certain way for many years have to be done differently because there's law that applies to this. And Joe has been working extremely hard to bring all our protocols up to date. And it really has been a very time-consuming process. She has been doing a magnificent job, and I just like that recorded in the minutes. Thank you. That brings me on to the next working group, Major Projects Working Group, which met on the 30th of June. Councillor Smith-Roberts.
I won't start with toilets. I'll start with other elements that we discussed. So we met, I want to say last week,
One of the items is on the agenda tonight that we will be discussing later on around the transport hub. And then going on to toilets, because I could not talk about them, is just the fact that we opened the changing places in the building by the transport hub recently. So that's the first kind of public changing places that is available in Taunton. There are others situated in kind of private or community enterprises, but that's our first public one. Cannon Street is going well and has been open now for over a month, and then we're working through the Paul Street procurement and working on those elements. So again, all moving along nicely.
Well, thank you, Councillor Smith-Roberts, for all your hard efforts for this toilets working group. You are a very busy councillor back here in the Somerset Council, and what we've achieved in the realms of improving the toilets is very creditable, and thank you for your efforts. Brings me on to the Climate and Ecological Working Group, which met on the 7th of July. Councillor Ellis.
Yes, yeah, we had a meeting, was that last night, and we welcomed a new member, James Lawson, who's one of the Somerset young MPs. He's based in Taunton, and he's he chose at the beginning of his office to focus on climate and the environment. So we thought, what a great opportunity. We met him at the Green Fair and had a really good chat with him. And he's a very well-connected and influential young man, really like very, very impressive. I think a lot of our young people are in Taunton today. So he's going to be a real asset. And one of the main things we were discussing yesterday was trees, as it happens, partly because we were aware of the issue about trees and watering and their fragility, the ones that we've had planted. But Jordan seems to think that Marcus is on the case with this already. So that was, big concern. Also on the subject of trees, there's quite a bit of public concern about the trees coming down on Staple Grove Road and the A358 as a result of the planning application, which we had to approve whenever that was, last week before last, on Somerset Council, that is. So this is they have to create an access into Staple Grove West. This was the thing agreed in 2017. Anyway, they were originally going to do something off the roundabout. They can't do that now. So the road is going to have to be widened. So whereas now you've got this kind of like, avenue of lots and lots of trees and greenery on the one side, it's all got to come out. There's going to have to be a retaining wall built, which will get planted out really nicely with like wildflowers and grasses and whatnot, doodah. However, there's a load of trees along there that are Somerset Council trees that will have to come down. So my issue was, well, they'll have to be replaced then 3 for 1, because that's what I assume was the policy, because that was the policy at Somerset West and Taunton, and it's Taunton Town Council's policy. If a tree, has to be taken out, it dies, decays, comes down in a storm, whatever, you replace 3 for 1. I mean, that's not all there is to it. It has to be the right tree, right type of, native species. And now we're very, very savvy about doing it much better than it has been done in the past. But anyway, it's the 3 for 1 principle. So James is going to be lobbying on this, and Jordan is going to be talking to their tree strategy people, because it appears this policy may have gone into abeyance, may not have survived the transition. So we want it back, essentially, because both councils are meant to be focused on increasing tree canopy. So yes, that was a big focus, and we also want to make people aware about the local transport plan consultation that Somerset Council has gone out, because that has obvious climate and environmental implications, and that's a big one because it will influence policy and priorities and spending for the next 20 years. So it's really important that we get people to engage with that. And there were probably other things, but that's all I can remember off the top of my head. Oh no, something else important. Again, to do with trees. This was trees, because there have been a few instances of teenagers having interactions with trees of not a positive variety, if I may put it that way. So there's going to be some youth engagement around when we planted trees, how to avoid them getting vandalised. And so there's going to be a paper coming to, I think, Community in Place in the first instance. So we're going to try out different forms of youth engagement in relation to that, not sort of try out different forms. And James can also help advise us on that, because we want people to, care about the trees and look after the trees. So they'll be exploring ways in which we can do that.
Thank you, councillor Ennis, for that very far up report. Brings me on to item 8, reports from outside bodies appointees. Are there any updates? So,
Thank you. It's me again. Just a brief one about as I'm the Armed Forces Champion for Taunton Town Council. I attended the Somerset Armed Forces Day on Saturday, and again, I was going to make a mention about the record numbers of over 41,000. I think we're celebrating that, which is amazing. And for me, one of the highlights was to spend time chatting with one of the IPs, Nobby, who's a Chelsea pensioner, and it's great to see 2 Chelsea pensioners there this year. And again, a massive well done to all the volunteers and committee for putting on an amazing event. So I think we echo most of the comments that we've already raised here already. And then just briefly, I was at the Taunton LCN AGM last night, and we had 2 presentations from residents about speeding issues on Troll Road and about the safety of school children crossing this very busy road to get to school every day. We as the Town Council have installed these speed indicator device on this stretch to monitor and gather evidence of speeding. So I think it's firmly on our radar as a Town Council about this. And I also delivered my final report as the chair of the Young People's Working Group, as its remit is now coming to a conclusion. And if anybody wants to know any more about it, let me know. Thank you.
thank you very much, councillor. Are there any other reports? Just like to add a couple of things. There's also a special LCN Taunton and Hestercombe meeting on highways, which I attended, which is really interesting. And we're getting a chance to look at all the proposals from Somerset Council, which are quite expensive. So more about that in due course. And I attended the annual meeting of the GWR public annual meeting, and that was held in Swindon. And I have a very nice announcement to make. Some of you may be aware that for some years there's been a Devon and Cornwall rail card. This is being changed. I think they're just waiting for final government approval, but they're expecting this to come through for September. It will be renamed the Peninsula Rail Card and will include the Somerset Council part of the wider Somerset area in the Devon and Cornwall rail card, and specifically including Taunton, which means that for £12 a year, you can now hopefully get a rail card which will enable you to travel throughout the rest of the southwest. That's amongst other developments. So Taunton is being looked at very seriously and being included in schemes both going southwest and also towards the rest of the country. It is all very hopeful. We are seen as quite pivotal. So I'd just like to report on that. Are there any other reports from outside bodies before I pass on? Thank you. Takes me on to item 9, to receive any reports or communications from Somerset councillors. Thank you very much. I'll go on to item 10, the forward plan. Members of the note, formal plan for full council. Could I have a proposal, please? Thank you. I think Councillor Pollard was first. Could I have a second there? Councillor Furman. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? I declare that vote is carried. Thank you very much. Brings me on to item 11. Local Government Boundary Commission consultation. Going to call now on Marcus Prowse to introduce the item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I hope you had a chance to consider the report. The Local Government Boundary Commission is consulting until the 11th of August, and there's a link in the report for you to have your say. We were notified as the Town Council on the 3rd of June 2025 of the commencement of consultation on draft recommendations for division boundaries. It was noted that the review proposed changes to the Town Council ward boundaries. And so we placed it on the forward plan for you tonight to consider whether you want to make a collective response or you're happy to go away and make those submissions yourself as councillors. options up to you to decide, really. It is important to note this review does not propose to change the external boundaries of the Taunton Town Council area. The Local Government Boundary Commission cannot recommend changes to the external boundaries of parishes, though Somerset Council has that power, which is how the Taunton Town Council was created in 2023. I've put a couple of copies of the maps in front of you. One is the current ward map for Taunton Town Council, and then the other one in grey is the proposed one. So you can sort of compare and contrast side by side. There are no changes to the the wards all have the same names, the number of councillors as is now, 20 councillors, and there's no change in the configurations in terms of double member wards. So yeah, happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Councillor Smith-Roberts.
Councillor Smith-Roberts. Sorry, I didn't say.
Sorry, Marcus, so you're asking us whether we want to put in something completely as a town council, which would probably carry more weight than us doing it individually. Remind me of the timescales, because if we want to do that, then that's something to think about, or just do it separately and make everyone put their own views in.
Yes, Councillor Smith-Roberts. So the consultation closes on the 11th of August. There's no full council in August. So you choose tonight to submit a collective response as Taunton Town Council, or you can go away and make your individual submissions as ward members, as Taunton Town councillors, or wearing other hats, particularly here. So, and then once that closes on the 11th of August, the LGBCE will publish their recommendations on the 2nd of December. Then that will go to Parliament to approve, and then the new arrangements will apply when the next elections are due to be held, which is in May 2027.
Just to come back, I think it's really difficult to make a collective decision this evening, so I would recommend that we put all in individual responses should we feel that we want to do so.
Thank you, Councillor Smith-Roberts.
Councillor Fustian.
Councillor Fustian.
Thank you, Chair. I'll put this in the nicest possible way. There's a growing feeling within Maidenbrook that they're starting to question what did they ever do to deserve to not only be ripped from the community once, but then to have their community ripped away from them again twice. I cannot fathom these plans. I don't know why the Liberal Democrats suggested them in terms of Maidenbrook. These are their proposals in there, and it's in the report. You're now going to take my town council ward again and extend Overbridge, by the looks of it in this map, and obviously I lose half of my ward in the county ward. We have been a community for 20 odd plus years. We were fully integrated with West Monkton through a country park, and now for some reason we're being split into again. This makes no sense. It makes no sense to my residents. They're extremely angry at this, and they seem like, what have we done wrong? Why are we being punished? Punished twice in 3 years. This makes absolutely no sense. And I want to put on record, and I would hope the town council would put on their objection to these plans, because what they said in their report, where they said we've rejected Councillor Fraschini's observation that they were closer ties to Ched and Fitzpaine and West Monkton, as they're now part of Taunton Town Council, which is a load of tosh. We've always been integrated with Ched and Fitzpaine because we were part of Ched and Fitzpaine. We worked very closely with West Monkton because of the country park. We've been a community for a lot longer than we have been in town council areas. So how they came to that decision without knowing the geography and the local landscape of the area, to put that into a public document, which is now on record, again, is a load of tosh. So this council needs to address this particular issue. I plead you to do that.
Thank you, Councillor. I'd like to ask Councillor Deane to respond to that. Would you like to say anything? Has anybody else got anything they wish to say on this particular matter? Councillor Deane.
think we should think about the way we address this chamber when we're in this room. I understand that passions run high, but I think we should think very carefully about the tone that we take. I think this council has done nothing but try to represent all corners of its community since being formed 2 years ago, and I think we've all worked incredibly hard to do so. To put forward a submission that looks to reverse time, to undo lots of the hard work that this council has been doing, I think is a real shame. I have to say that part of the reason that we are in the position that we are and the pressures placed on this council is, let's not forget that we went to unitary. That was against the will of residents. That was against the referendum that was taking place, and that was Councillor Pasquini by your party whilst you were a county councillor. Now, I have to say, you reference your county council division. You're not a county councillor at the moment. However, when you were, you represented the Priorswood area and the Maidenbrook area. Why is it that you would like to treat Maidenbrook one way and Priorswood another? That feels like wanting to split the community apart. So I'm afraid I don't agree with your suggestion that this is ripping the community apart. It's come from the Boundary Commission, a government agency who have put forward these proposals. And I think in their quote as to why they come up with these proposals, I think speaks for itself. We consider that placing the Maidenbrook area in a Taunton-based division will provide for good electoral equality, as well as effective and convenient local government.
Thank you, Councillor Deacon. Before I go back, Councillor Fernandez, you'd like to say something?
Thank you. Yeah, this is just slightly separate from what's been just discussed, but I'm also a parish councillor for Bishop's Hall Parish Council. The Bishop's Hall Parish Council submitted lots and lots of different suggestions, all of which were ignored by the Boundary Council because it wasn't in the best, as they felt, as Tom's just quoted for Maidenbrook, it wasn't in the best interest of Bishop's Hall. So it's not just Maidenbrook. All of those parishes have been affected in a similar way. I just wanted to add that for context. Thank you.
Councillor Frascini.
Yeah, just to go back on that though, but Bishop's Hall isn't in the Taunton Town Council area, and we know that agreements were done before the OGR, which is why it's left out if a certain councillor backed this and proposed the proposal. I'm just going to correct Councillor Deacon. Councillor Deacon says that we're in this situation because of the unitary. Now, we all know that the joint double council was never ever part of the equation, and the minister at the time said it won't have any bearing on the proposal because it's not within the parameters of it, and it was a political decision to do that. So please, let's not be selective on how we frame your debate. What I'm talking about is Maidenbrook and the LGR, which was forced upon us when 92% of my residents said we identify with Chilham Fitzpaine and not as part of the town. Your party, and you were a driving force behind it, decided to ignore that. Now, your party's proposal, which is evident in the report, states that we are now going to split Maidenbrook again in half. That's factual. So however you want to frame your argument and try and say, you know, oh, you're being disingenuous with prize and whatnot, you're splitting a ward up. You're splitting people, a community who have been closely knitted together for 20 years plus, 25 years plus apart. That's the difference. So what I'm asking you, as the county councillor for Maidenbrook, are you going to support these proposals, or are you going to try and create and keep Maidenbrook, the community where you reside, as one?
I think I need to go back to Councillor Deacon before I ask anybody else to say anything.
I would second Councillor Smith-Roberts' proposal that individual members should go and submit the submission that they would like to in response to these proposals.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't have an answer to my question. My question was, is Councillor Deacon going to support these proposals, or is he going to support his community? That's my question.
Councillor Deacon, can't say any more.
You had a proposal and you've had a seconder.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Did I have a seconder for the original proposal?
Councillor Deacon.
Councillor Deacon. Thank you. My apologies. Procedural. Now, this is obviously something of particular significance. Is there anything else that any other councillor wishes to say on this matter? Yeah. Okay, in that case, we will now go to the vote. And the vote basically, as I understand it, is that we submit a collective response in the absence, no?
So you're going to submit individual responses.
We do it that way round. Yes, it's one or the other basically. So I will phrase it as advised. The vote is that we will submit individual responses to this particular proposal from the Boundaries Commission. Do I have a proposal for that?
Councillor Smith Roberts proposed and
Councillor Smith Roberts and
Councillor Deacon second.
and Councillor Deacon seconded. Do I have
Sorry, Chair. Forgive me.
yes, that's fair enough.
If this council is not going to submit a collective response or a response based on the interest of residents and asking councillors to submit them individually, what's the point of the council? Because that's what a council is meant to do, is to represent its residents. And now you're asking councillors to do it individually, and everyone's got their own individual views. What I'm asking for is that the council, which was what the recommendation says, is to submit something that is best serves or includes all of the issues that the councillors have. And at the moment, that just seems to be, well, let's just have a cop out and let's brush it under the carpet and let councillors do it themselves.
I'll take Councillor Packer Hughes first, please.
I absolutely appreciate your strength of feeling on this. However, I think there would be merit in submitting a single response from the council if we were unanimous. But I think particularly because of the areas involved, particular councillors' wards are going to be specifically involved. I think it's really important actually that everyone has a voice on this, because we will have different feelings and we do represent different communities. And I think that it's beneficial actually for us all to be able to submit that rather than have one single voice. I don't see it as a cop-out at all. I think it's actually giving us more of a collective voice that we can all put forward for the views of our residents and our communities.
Councillor Smith Roberts first, and then Councillor Furman.
I've got a procedural point because the proposal and the seconding has been put, and yet more people are coming back in. So I don't think we're following quite the constitution off the top of my head. And I hate to be a constitution geek, but I'm just saying that that's probably how we should do it. However, Amber has said all that I was going to say about probably we're not getting agreement on tonight. And if we ever need to do this again, we probably need a meeting prior to a full council to discuss it.
We do have a proposal on the table.
So you need to move to your vote.
So I do need to constitutionally move to my vote. All those in favour of individuals responding? All those against? Any abstentions? That is carried. I do accept the strength of feeling here, but I do have to go with the majority. That brings me on to item 12, feasibility outcomes of potential transfer of building from Somerset Council. I'd now like to call on the project lead, Emily Glover, to introduce the item. There will additionally be a representative from Somerset Council present to answer any questions if required. And if that is the case, I will need to suspend standing orders. Emily?
Thank you. Good evening, councillors. So in the May full council, members agreed in principle to acquire building one transport hub. Since then, we have conducted some feasibility overviews and had some concept designs drawn up. Initially, we undertook a 4-week consultation with the public to determine what they would like to see within building 1 and building 2 and how we can best use those spaces if we were to take building 1 on. We received 130 responses. The responses are outlined in Appendix 1, but the main suggestions were for public toilets, cafe, flexible community space, which can provide a variety of different uses, for example, arts, classes, clubs, higher space. Youth space, retail unit, potentially repair cafe, waiting room, and there was also mention of potentially incorporating the tourist visitor centre there. We've also been undertaking small stakeholder engagement with Somerset Council So with discussions about incorporating the waiting room on site, as this is essential for the viability of the wider transport hub. We've also had discussions about campus space for bus staff within one of the buildings. So we had a consultant draw up some concept designs and produce the feasibility report, which is in Appendix 2. They've drawn up 3 options. These are not firm designs, they're just examples of how the buildings could be laid out to incorporate the consultation responses. Given that we've received them in advance, 2 final plans, I just thought I'd highlight what each of the options was. Again, these are not firm designs, but option 1 incorporates a waiting room and downstairs in building 1 and bus of staff offices upstairs, and then building 2 cafe, toilets, community space. Option 2 was for community space upstairs in building 1 and flexible space downstairs, potentially for retail units, and then building 2 cafe, waiting room, toilets, and the bus staff space. And then option 3 had a cafe and community space in building 1 and a waiting area, retail, toilets, and office in building 2. Our consultant also drew up a report about the surveys needed for the space, and also the requirement for a structural engineer in regards to making sure any community space is accessible and incorporating a lift. Across these options, refurbishment costs are estimated between £700,000 and £800,000. This incorporates all elements of the design, so that also includes the waiting room, which Somerset Council have funds to deliver, and also we would be looking to apply for external funding for the community space. Some of the ideas are income generating, for example, the cafe, community space, and office and retail. Some key considerations are that the top floor building 1 is the largest space, so it would make it more ideal for a community space and to incorporate the lift. It's also the more commercially attractive building in regards to a cafe. It's also important to note that some of the council have said that a waiting room needs to be in place by day 1 of the transport hub. This is provisionally March next year, and also the discussions are still going around the first bus's use if they were interested in office space in one of the buildings. So the report's been brought to you, and it's to discuss the freehold transfer of building 1, and also should that take place, we would then be looking to allocate £40,000 to deliver the next phase of the project, which would be to draw up detailed designs, conduct the required surveys outlined in the concept design and feasibility report, and also appoint a structural engineer in regards to the lift. And we would also be looking to apply for Section 106 funding for the community space. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. It's now open for discussion. Do I have any questions? Councillor Packer-Hughes.
Going to raise Councillor Smith-Roberts to the T word here. I'm really enjoyed looking through the proposals. I'm personally in favour of the third option. I think that offers the best potential in community use and to fulfil all the stuff that came out with the consultation. Just having sat through a lot of the toilet working groups, I would just be really keen to see in the final designs the number of public toilets in building 2 increased based on the footfall figures that we had for Castle Green existing toilets, which are considerably larger. And I suspect this area is going to get bigger once it returns to the transport hub. So whilst the plan has flexible office or retail space on the ground floor, I would really be keen to see that expanded into additional public toilet provision, if that's possible. I don't know whether those footfall figures have been built into the design and given to the consultants yet.
Any other questions or observations? Councillor Ellis, is your hand up? Yes, I thought I saw it up. And then Councillor Smith-Roberts.
Yeah, no, I'm just eager we crack on with this because we want to get it open March 2026, and it might have been, you know, the waiting area and that. And I would simply concur very strongly with Councillor Packer-Hughes that I think, I'm not sure we're being asked which design option do we prefer broadly, but number 3 seems to be obviously the best option, because if you're going to, one of them was like putting the waiting room in building 2, you wouldn't be able to see the bus coming, which is a bit odd. So it seems to be obvious that some version of design option 3, but do we, when do we decide on the design options? Is that, my question is at a later stage. I want us to crack on, and I'm just a bit confused about at what stage do we plump for 1, 2 or 3?
You want to give that to Emily to answer?
Yes.
And then we'll go to.
Yes, yes, could you please answer, Emily?
Thank you. Yes, so we would be going into detailed design phases next from this. So we're still engaging with Somerset Council around the office space and the waiting rooms that would impact where they are located. But yes, we'll be bringing that back to council upon the detailed design phase.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Smith-Roberts?
Interestingly, I'll give my view in a second, but just coming in on what Emily has said, I'm wondering if there's a need for a recommendation to, can we delegate the decision on the final design stage to be worked on by the major projects working group to then go through to operations and assets? Is there enough to do that, just so that we can move quickly?
It seems sensible.
I don't know whether we can do that, Donna, if that helps things move, or is the value too high for the design and the procurement?
You can't delegate to a working group. The working group can look at the detail, and then they will make a recommendation to operations.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we can do that to keep moving things forward, so that ops and assets can make that decision, and then it just helps. Then we've got councillor input. As an aside, I know Taunton Town Council and Somerset Council are meeting in a couple of weeks, so that we can kind of work together on that alongside Councillor Rigby and I think Councillor Wilkins. So I just think it would be pertinent to add that recommendation to help things move quicker. My own view is, whilst I love toilets, as everyone knows, I do think that we just need to think in the round around all of the estate that we own, Castle Green, and how everything kind of works in synergy. But that can be something that the major project working group, for me, it's important that we take on this building. It has lots of potential uses. I think it's very clear in the report, because I've seen lots of stuff on social media. We want a waiting room, and that will fundamentally form part of the site, because I know that there's been lots of pushback about thinking there's not going to be a waiting room, and we know that Somerset Council and Taunton Town Council want a waiting room, and there will be a waiting room. So for me, it's about just moving forward and cracking on with it. One of the things I'd like, if there was a money tree, for want of a better phrase, is that actually we could make use of what the archaeology is under the site. So I know that there's castle remains, I believe, between building 1 and building 2, and to show our heritage that's currently hidden under a load of concrete would be beautiful. But I think that's probably too pie in the sky and expensive.
I have every sympathy with the statement that's just been made, and as an observation, may I request that the major projects working group meets as soon as possible, so that there can be a recommendation made to the committee as soon as possible, because this is important, and the longer we leave it, more the cost goes up. Time is money. I have you have my full backing on that. Councillor Deacon, you want to say something?
Yeah, just on this, I'm really excited about the potential here. I tend to lean towards option 3 as well. I think as the town council, we are best placed to be the leading partner on this project. I think we should work, of course, incredibly closely with colleagues at Somerset Council and at First Bus as well, to make sure that there's a well-rounded provision there. But I do think that we should be taking the lead, securing the assets and turning them into actually some income generation for us as well. Would be fantastic if we could do that, but to create some really impressive community space. So fully supportive of us progressing with this at pace.
Do I have any more observations? Caroline Ellis?
Yeah, an observation. I'm really pleased to see this really good partnership working here with Somerset Council. Would that cross other issues? Charging for Sunday car parks? No, thank you. Anyway, that was a bit cheeky of me. But I'm just still a bit confused about this design. We're not going to go and commission detailed design work on 3 different options, are we? But we're not. There's nothing in the paper to say which one we're going for. You're not going to delegate. Who, you know. How is I'm having a mental fluff here. I like things to be really super clear in terms of what is happening next, and I wasn't quite sure. You've got to plump for 1, 2 or 3 broadly. Yeah, you might have to, you know, jiggly around a bit, but I'm having a hard time understanding at what point that decision, you're not going to go and do a load of more detailed design work on all three options, or are we? I don't understand.
As I understand it, the working group is going to consider that, and we'd like to do that as soon as possible. The working group will then make a recommendation to the Ops and Assets Committee, which we want to do as soon as possible, and they will then, presumably because of the site, make a recommendation to full council to make the final decision. Am I correct in understanding the procedure?
Yeah.
So we want to do this as soon as possible. And you're absolutely right, we have to consider every option. This is not the forum to do that. That's why we've got the working group. Have I missed something? Okay, does anybody else want to say anything before we start moving to a vote? Okay, I will read out what we're actually voting for. Members are asked, 1, to agree to the freehold transfer of Building 1, part of the transport hub on Tower Street. 2, to delegate powers to the clerk for negotiations and transfer of the building. 3, to continue to work with Somerset Council and First Bus to provide a waiting room in one of the buildings for operation by the other party. 4, to allocate a budget of £40,000 to conduct required surveys and procure professional services to develop detailed designs, including a structural engineer if required. These detailed designs will form the basis for grant applications, planning submissions, tender documentation, and eventual refurbishment works. And 5, to support the pursuance of an application for Section 106 funding to enable the required refurbishment works to be undertaken to develop a community space. Now, I intend to take these en bloc. If this is voted against, we can then have amendments. But at this stage, if you approve that, we can move ahead on that.
There's an extra point, obviously, based on what Councillor Smith Roberts. So
yes,
an extra point would be for the major working group to have a look at the detailed designs with the project officers, who would then make a recommendation to operations and assets. And then it would come back to full council for ratification because of the size of the works.
Is that clearly understood? What we're saying is working group first, committee decision to recommend to full council, and then we make the final decision at full council in the light of the updated information. Is there anybody who's got any doubt on this? Because we're talking about a lot of work and a lot of money here. So I'll now like to proceed to a vote. Do I have a proposal? Oh, yes, Councillor Ellis.
I'm fully behind all of this. I just want us to crack on. So I'm just.
Oh yes.
Can we just clarify the timetables? If we by going around the houses and going back to a working group and then to a committee and then back to full council, that's not going to mess up anything.
Not at all. We want to treat this with we will treat this with the utmost urgency, as I understand it, that the working group should meet as soon as possible, certainly before the summer, before any break, and then this to go on the next agenda of the Ops and Assets Committee, whenever that may be. And then they will then make a recommendation to the council meeting following that. Am I quite clear, and is everybody else quite clear on that procedure? Are you reassured, Councillor Ellis?
I would just say number three, crack on. That would just seem sensible to me, unless anyone disagrees with that. But I'm happy to go with whatever, as long as we do crack on. And you'll have to estimate a timeline will have to change, because we won't be getting into detail design August to November. It'll be September, like fag end of September to November.
Hopefully by September.
Yeah, well,
no reason why not.
The timescale may be a little teeny bit out, but I don't want to make a big thing. I'm very, very supportive of this.
If the working group meets soon, then it will go on the next council meeting.
Every 2 weeks.
They're meeting every 2 weeks. They certainly will be meeting within the next 2 weeks before the summer recess. So absolutely no hold-ups as far as I can see on that. Yes. Yes, Councillor Stanger, that's a hand wave. Yeah, sorry. Putting behind somebody else's head.
Chair, operations and assets meets on the 31st of July. So as long as the working group meets in the next couple of weeks, a week or so.
That's the impression I had. We're still early July. There will be a working group meeting coming up within the next 2 weeks. And that's in time for the next committee meeting, and it will go on the agenda of the next full council meeting for ratification, as I understand it. Is that perfectly okay?
Yeah, we will.
Thank you. I think we're all agreed.
We've got to wait for the detailed designs to come back
Yes.
after the agreement of what's been
Yes,
attached with the working group. So it's
absolutely.
kind of like.
But what I'm saying is we will move on this as quickly as it is humanly possible to do. Can I move to a vote, please? Do I have a proposer? Thank you. I think Councillor Firmin, do I have a seconder? Councillor Pollard? All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? I declare that vote is carried. And thank you for that. This is a very important decision for the town. And I think we're all agreed we want this hub working as soon as possible in the way that we've been discussing. Thank you very much indeed. I'm now going to move to item 13, and this involves access to information. We need a motion to exclude the press and public. Can I have a proposal, please? Thank you, Councillor Pollard. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Firmin. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? I declare that proposal carried.